Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Vishnu-pad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotarashata Shishimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnu-pad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotarashata Shishimad. His Divine Grace Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Śrīla Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Yamuna Maya Ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, The Creative Impetus, Chapter 18. The residents of Jambudvipa offer prayers. Text 39. Pramatya Daityam Prativaranam Mride Yo Mam Vasaya Jagad Adi Shukara Kritvagra Dangstre Niragad Udanvataha Kridan Ivabaha Pranatasmi Tam vibhum iti. Pramatya daityam prativaranam ride. Yo mam rasaya jagat adi shukaraha. Kridvagradangshre niragaru danvata. Kridan ivebhya pranatasmi tam vibhum iti. No, that's not it. I'm still going. I was just thinking. That's right. So this last line, Javeda Prabhu, how is this with the iti? Yeah. How is it supposed to sound? You just chant it and then you say iti? Okay. Pramatya daityam prativaranam ride. Yo mam rasaya jagat adi shukaraha. Kritvagadangshe niragaru danvata. Kridan ivebhya pranatasmi tam vibhum iti. Pramatya daityam prativaranam ride. Yo mam rasaya jagat adi shukaraha. Kritvagadangshe niragaru danvata. Kridan ivebhya pranatasmi tam vibhum iti. Please chant. Pramatya, after killing. Daityam, the demon. Prativaranam, most formidable opponent. Mride, in the fight. Yaha, he who. Mam, me, the earth. Rasayaha, fallen to the bottom of the universe. Jagat, in this material world. Adi Shukaraha, the original form of a boar. Kritva, keeping it. Agre dangshe, on the head, on the end of the tusk. Niragat, came out of the water. Udanvataha, from the Garbhodaka ocean. Kridan, plain. Iva, like. Ibaha, elephant. Pranata asmi, I bow down. Tam, to him. Vibhum, the Supreme Lord. Iti, thus. Translation. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. My Lord, as the original boar within this universe, you fought and killed the great demon Hiranyaksha. Then you lifted me, the earth, from the Garbhodaka ocean on the end of your tusk, exactly as a sporting elephant plucks a lotus flower from the water. I bow down before you. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 5th canto, 18th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Prayers Offered to the Lord by the Residents of Jambudvip. So we'll go to chapter 19. Chapter 19, a description of the island of Jambudvip. Just summary here. This chapter describes the glories of Bharata, and it also describes how Lord Ramachandra is being worshipped in the tract of land known as Kimpuruṣa-varṣa. The inhabitants of Kimpuruṣa-varṣa are fortunate because they worship Lord Ramachandra with his faithful servant Hanuman. Lord Ramachandra exemplifies an incarnation of Godhead who descends for the mission of Pradyumna Sadhanam Vinashaya Chaduskritam, protecting the devotees and destroying the miscreants. Lord Ramachandra exhibits the actual purpose of an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the devotees take the opportunity to offer loving transcendental service to him. One should surrender fully to the Lord, forgetting one's so-called material happiness, opulence, and education, which are not at all useful for pleasing the Lord. The Lord is pleased only by the process of surrender unto him. When Devarshi Narada descended to instruct Saravani Manu, he described the opulence of Bharata, India. Saravani Manu and the inhabitants of Bharata engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the origin of creation, maintenance, and annihilation, and who is always worshipped by self-realized souls. In the planet known as Bharata, there are many rivers and mountains, as there are in other tracts of land. Yet Bharata has special significance because in this tract of land there exists the Vedic principle of varnashrama dharma, which divides society into 4 varnas and 4 ashrams. Furthermore, Narada Muni's opinion is that even if there is some temporary disturbance in the execution of the varnashrama dharma principles, they can be revived at any moment. The effect of adhering to the institution of varnashram is gradual elevation to the spiritual platform and liberation from material bondage. By following the principles of varnashram dharma, one gets the opportunity to associate with devotees. Such association gradually awakens one's dormant propensity to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead and frees one from all the basic principles of sinful life. One then gets the opportunity to offer unalloyed devotional service to the Supreme Lord, Vāsudeva. Because of this opportunity, the inhabitants of Bharata are praised even in the heavenly planets. Even in the topmost planet of this universe, Brahmaloka, the position of Bharata is discussed with great relish. All the conditioned living entities are evolving within the universe in different planets and different species of life. Thus one may be elevated to Brahmaloka, but then one must again descend to earth, as confirmed in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Brahma bhuvanaloka punar arvartinurjuna. If those who live in Bharata rigidly follow the principles of varnashram dharma and develop their dormant Krishna consciousness, they need not return to this material world after death. Any place where one cannot hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead from realized souls, even if it be Brahmaloka, is not very congenial to the living entity. If one who has taken birth in the land of Bharata as a human being does not take advantage of the opportunity for spiritual elevation, his position is certainly the most miserable. In the land known as Bharata, even if one is a sarva kama bhakta, a devotee seeking the fulfillment of some material desire. He is freed from all material desires by his association with devotees, and ultimately he becomes a pure devotee and returns home back to Godhead without difficulty. At the end of this chapter, Sri Shukadeva Goswami describes to Maharaj Parikshit the 8 sub-islands within the island of Jambudvip. All right, so this text one. Just Shri Shukavacha Kimpuruṣa-varṣa Bhagavatam Adi Puruṣam Lakṣmaṇa Sita Biramam Ramam Tachcharna Sani Karshabhirata Parama Bhagavato Hanuman Saha Kimpuruṣa Avirata Bhaktir Upaste. Srila Shukadeva Goswami said, "My dear king, in Kimpuruṣa-varṣa, the great devotee Hanuman is always engaged with the inhabitants of that land in devotional service to Lord Ramachandra, the elder brother of Lakṣmaṇa and dear husband of Sita Devi." 2. Arishtish Nena Saha Gandharvar Anugiya Manam Parama Kalyanim Varit Bhagavat Katam Samu Pashnoti Swayam Chedam Gayati. A host of Gandharvas is always engaged in chanting the glories of Lord Ramachandra. That chanting is always extremely auspicious. Hanumanji and Arishtaṣena, the chief person in Kimpuruṣa-varṣa, constantly hear those glories with complete attention. Hanuman chants the following mantras. Purport. In the Puranas, there are 2 different opinions concerning Lord Ramachandra. In the Laghu Bhagavatamrita, this 5:34 through 36, this is confirmed in the description of the incarnation of Manu. Vāsudevādi Rūpānam Avatara Prakritita Viṣṇu-dharmottara Rama Lakṣmaṇada Rami. The Viṣṇu-dharmottara describes that Lord Ramachandra and his brothers, Lakṣmaṇa, Bharata, and Śatrughna, are incarnations of Vāsudeva, Saṅkarṣaṇa, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, respectively. The Padma Purāṇa, however, states that Lord Ramachandra is an incarnation of Nārāyaṇa and that the other 3 brothers are incarnations of Śeṣa, Cakra, and Śaṅkha. Therefore, Śrīla Baladeva Vidyābhūṣaṇa has concluded, Tam idaṁ kalpa-bhedenaiva sambhāvyam. In other words, these opinions are not contradictory. In some millenniums, Lord Ramachandra and his brothers appear as incarnations of Vāsudeva, Saṅkarṣaṇa, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, and in other millenniums they appear as incarnations of Nārāyaṇa, Śeṣa, Cakra, and Śaṅkha. The residence of Lord Ramachandra on this planet is Ayodhyā. Ayodhyā City is still existed in the district of Hyderabad, which is situated on the northern side of Uttar Pradesh. You're from Ayodhyā, right? All right. Do you think you could get that book from the audio closet, please? You know, that Samadhi's book. Om Jnanativadandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulanmadatam Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Kam Karitavachalam Pangam Langai Tegadem Yakripatam Ham Bande Shri Gurundinitaranam Vanchaka Patribishta Kipasandabevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vāsudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thanks. So today is the appearance of Rakreshwara Pandit, a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya. And he's famous for many things. But one thing he's famous for is dancing, right? So we'll just could hear a little bit about him. Once in the house of Srivas Thakur, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sang while Vrikreshwar Pandit danced in constant ecstasy for how long? 72 hours. A long time, huh? At that time, Lord Chaitanya said, Vrikreshwar, I have only one wing like you, but if I had another, certainly I would fly in the sky. Expert at singing and dancing, Vrikreshwar Pandit always pleased Lord Chaitanya with his service in the Navadvip Sankirtan parties, which he joined from the beginning. The dramas at Srivas Angam and the early Rath Yatra at Jagannath Puri, so he served Lord Chaitanya by dancing and singing. Nicely. Vrindavan Das Thakur said, to awaken the sleeping souls in the age of Kali, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to distribute the nectar of the holy name of Krishna. When he came, the mridanga and kartal sounded like thundering clouds. Absorbed in the moods of ecstatic love and shouting, Haribol, Haribol, Sri Gauranga told everyone to chant the holy name of Krishna. Raising his golden arms to the sky, Lord Chaitanya would dance in ecstasy. At that time, Vrikreshwar Pandit and others would dance with the Lord. Chaitanya Bhagavatam. By Vrikreshwar's blessings, Devananda Pandit was freed from the Vaishnava aparad he committed against Srivas Pandit. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted Devananda Pandit as one of his own devotees. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu commented on this incident. Krishna has made his home in the heart of Vrikreshwar Pandit. As Krishna dances in his heart, so Vrikreshwar Pandit himself dances. Whatever place Vrikreshwar Pandit blesses with his association becomes a holy place of pilgrimage, more sacred than all the holy places. Yeah. Certain great devotees such as Vrikreshwar Pandit, Paramananda Puri, Swarup Damodar, Gadadhar, Jagadananda, Shankar, Raghunath, Vaidya, and Raghunath Das were associated with Lord Chaitanya from the very beginning of his pastimes in Navadvip. They also faithfully served the Lord when he moved to Nilachala Dham, Jagannath Puri. Vrikreshwar Pandit established deities of Shri Shri Radha Kanta and Kashi Mishra's house next to the Gambhira in Jagannath Puri. Kavi Karnapur says Vrikreshwar Pandit is an incarnation of Aniruddha of Chaturvyuha. Vrikreshwar Pandit initiated Gopal Guru Goswami and many others in Orissa. Dhyan Chandra, a disciple of Gopal Guru Goswami, says in his books that Vrikreshwar Pandit is an incarnation of Tungya Vidya Sakhi, an expert singer and dancer, serving as one of Srimati Radharani's Ashtasakhis. All right, a little bit about Vrikreshwar Pandit. Good. Pray for a drop of his enthusiasm. So in this particular verse, specifically text 2 of today that we read, it's being brought up that there's two opinions. There's two opinions that describe two different opinions. The Puranas describe two different opinions concerning Lord Ramachandra. And one is that Lord Ramachandra is an incarnation of Nārāyaṇa, and the three brothers are Śeṣa, Cakra, and Śaṅkha. And the other opinion is that that Ramachandra is and his brothers are incarnations of Vāsudeva, Saṅkarṣaṇa, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. So Baladeva Vidyābhūṣaṇa says that these opinions are not contradictory, because in some millenniums, these personalities are incarnations. Ramachandra is an incarnation of Nārāyaṇa and Śaṅkha and Cakra and Śeṣa, and in other millenniums, they're incarnations of Vāsudeva, Lakṣmaṇa, Bharata and Śatrughna, Vāsudeva, Saṅkarṣaṇa, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. So different times, they come as different, incarnate as different personalities. So sometimes we see that there may be contradictory statements within Scripture, within the Srimad Bhagavatam and other books. But therefore we have wonderful commentaries of the great acharyas who shed light on the matter and help us understand that two things can exist at once. Two things could be true. it's not always that everything is black and white. Sometimes things may be black and white, but not always. There's many different things to consider in understanding the philosophy of Krishna consciousness and Krishna consciousness in general. But it's interesting because it says there's two different opinions, right, in the scriptures, and Baladeva Vidyābhūṣaṇa, he again sheds light on it. So whose opinion do we take seriously? And based on whose opinion we take seriously, that actually shapes our life and shapes our future and shapes, our consciousness. Whose opinion we take seriously. That will determine the success or failure of our lives. In the Bhagavad Gita, maybe some of you Veda-based users out there could quickly look up, but Krishna mentions a number of times, and the question is, how many times does he mention? Or how many times does he state, this is in my opinion, right? He does say it. He says, in my opinion. The question is how many times. So I'll leave that to somebody. I can't look it up right now. I could have looked it up before, but I wanted to not do that. So, but he does say a number of times, in my opinion. So, we have a choice. We could take Krishna's opinion seriously, or we could take others' opinions seriously. Of course, if those who are in line with Krishna's opinion, or those who are in line with, like, sadhu, shastra, guru, those who are in line with Krishna's opinion, then we take it seriously. Otherwise we don't. And we see that people tend to think that, like they say, right, where Krishna says that they're born in a particular place and they think that place is worshipable. They think it's the greatest place. They think it's the center of the universe, right? Whether it be America or here or there or wherever. And the opinions that they are brought up with or taught while they're being raised, they take as supreme, or they take as the best. And people throughout the world, born in different places, they tend to develop a bit of maybe some places more than others, historically speaking, that's for sure, but a bit of a cultural chauvinism, that my culture is definitely better than yours. And actually, we have culture and you don't. You are primitive. Your ideas, your thoughts, the way you live, animalistic, just wrong. Just like, can somebody look up that word chauvinism? Just so we get a clear definition from our trusted dictionary. Just like the Brits, nothing against the Brits, but just like the Brits, they came to India, right? And they not only came to India, but they were in charge of India for many, many years. And the leaders who decided to settle in India and rule there had an idea that we want to dismantle these people's faith and their culture, and we want to help them become British in culture and thought, right? Huh? Civilized. Yeah, we want to civilize them. Civilize them? I don't know. Yeah. That was their idea. In other words, our culture is definitely better than yours because, and yeah, and in many cases, can we even consider your culture a culture at all? Anyways, you wanted to...
Chauvinism, zealous and aggressive patriotism or blind enthusiasm for military glory.
Yes. So you have cultural chauvinism. And this could get very, very ugly. And actually, it can't get ugly. It is ugly and dangerous. And just like, for example, I heard somebody recently, they live in a part of town, a part of San Diego. You know, there's different parts, actually. Some parts you go, we may not go to these parts, so therefore we may not have much experience with the different parts of San Diego. But there's some parts of San Diego, and it's like, are you actually... it doesn't feel like you're in San Diego. It may feel like you're in yeah, I don't know if there's a Korean part of town, right? Yeah, there's Korean part of town, there's different parts of town, different parts of San Diego, and there's one particular part. It's heavily populated by those from but by Arabic people or Chaldean people, and you know, wherever you drive, the signs are in Arabic. People are speaking. The churches, they say, you know, please, you know, it's Arabic congregation and so on. And it's one of the most heavily populated Arabic places within California. So, but before, we're talking, you know, 20 years ago, it was all Caucasian people, you know, but due to people coming over on the basis of asylum, right, trying to get out of their particular countries and so on, then it filled up. So, but there are still a number of Caucasian people there and so on, so, and some of them aren't happy, right, with them taking over, whatever. So anyways, I was talking with one person who happened to be part of one of those neighborhood, and his wife was trying to explain to their grandchild, young girl, who lives in Hawaii and doesn't have much experience of all this, trying to explain their neighbors what's going on, because, you know, why are all the women, you know, walking around with their heads covered, and right, that's pretty strange from a particular perspective, right? Or uncommon in a particular perspective, namely the culture of Hawaii. So why are they doing that? So the wife was trying to explain, you know, the culture and this and that and whatever she knew. I don't think she knew much how to explain exactly, but she was trying to explain. So then the grandfather came out and heard this explanation, and then he just said, oh yeah, they're kind of cut her off, and she said, oh yeah, they're terrorists. That's what he said. I was actually very surprised. So then, and then the wife said, well, how do you know that? And then the grandfather said, well, how do you not know that? But I was thinking about it, and this person who said that, or you could say many people who may say that about a different culture, whatever, Islam or whatever, and say they make a blanket statement that all of them are a particular way. We could also say, well, you're also just as much as a terrorist as them. You're terrorizing the environment by your unhealthy living and choices. You're terrorizing animals by, you may not kill them directly, maybe you do. Maybe you're a hunter, but you're terrorizing animals by ingesting them. You're participating in that terror. You're terrorizing your body by putting all types of nonsense in it, smoking, drinking, etc. Right? And you're terrorizing the supersoul. Of course, supersoul is transcendental, this and that. But Srila Prabhupada does mention in the Bhagavad Gita that they cause pain to the supersoul, people torturing their bodies. So we could say that that person or people like that are people, they're just as much as terrorists as these other people. And of course, to say all of them just because they're whatever, cover their head or this or that, or terrorists is... So you see that, but there's this cultural chauvinism that, oh, I'm American, and you're weird, you're strange, and you're uncultured, and I have nothing to learn from you. And actually, if it was my choice, I would just never see anyone like you ever again in my life. This is a very strange type of pride. As if, again, as if American culture is so glorious. There's many good things about America. Srila Prabhupada loved America. Srila Prabhupada said America, right, gave him his man, his money, and they gave him freedom to preach. Prabhupada loved America. And what it offered him in terms of helping him and spread the Krishna conscious movement. But there's many things, like Srila Prabhupada said about Americans. He said, oh, they're very good. They're very good. There's one thing they eat meat. This is bad. They should give it up. And there's also other cultural things that aren't the most, right, healthy or beneficial. So people think, oh, they cover their head. Oh, they're very uncultured, primitive, as if this is some type of demoniac practice, right, for women to cover their head. But anyways, we won't go into all that right now. And then there's, people, they have opinions of, like, you could say, which is interesting because you have like these, cultural relativism. It's all cultures are equal, right? It's interesting because you got like two different thoughts, right? There's kind of cultural chauvinism, ours is better than yours, and you have cultural relativism, whereas, oh, it's all equal, right? But yeah, we don't agree. I mean, we don't agree. The philosophy of Krishna consciousness, it doesn't agree with cultural relativism that all cultures are equal. And why is that? Because things which are, you could say, Dharmantu Sakshat Bhagavat Pranitam, we accept things because they're coming from Krishna, right? Religion is enunciated by the Lord, and religion is coming from Krishna. And religion includes culture, right? The culture aspects of a particular group. It should. So if a culture is into cannibalism, how is that godly, right? Someone say, hey, leave them alone, right? They have their path. They have their way, right? It's all equal. Well, there is such a thing as good and bad, and we accept that as coming from Krishna or coming from a religion. It's not that it's all equal. There is good and bad, and the problem that we see within the world is that people are trying to do away with this. Oh, there's no good and bad. Just whatever makes you feel good, right? Whatever floats your boat, right? No matter how ungodly it is, just let it go with it, But it's a problem because we see that people, they criticize religions, and not just, mostly people aren't criticizing, they do criticize the philosophy or lack of philosophy in religions, definitely. But a lot of the times they criticize people in religion, because the people in religions may tend to be dogmatic, they may tend to be hypocritical, they may tend to be religionist, chauvinist, right? They have a lot of these tendencies. So then people think, oh, do away with religion. These people are a bunch of, right? But what we see is that people within religion, or men or women within religion, we may see them having imperfections as imperfect, right? Even though having religion. What to speak of people without religion, right? That people in religion, they have God and they have their spiritual practices and they have their Bible and their Quran and Bhagavad Gita and so on, and they're trying to move towards God, right? That's the idea. But they still may have so many problems and issues and imperfections. But what to speak people who do not have God? In other words, they're in a more difficult situation or fallen situation. So to just do away with God and religion and there's no good, there's no bad, and all this stuff, it's not going to work, and it hasn't been working. It hasn't been working for a long time, however long people have been trying to do it, and it's just getting worse. They're trying to, keep on following this philosophy. It's just getting worse, the situation, world situation, and then they're scratching their head. Oh, I wonder why it's getting worse. Well, it should be obvious why it's getting worse, because they're trying to do away with religion, God, morality, ethic. They're just trying to throw it all away. Philosophy, right? Close the philosophy departments and at the local universities. It's not making any money, right? It's too hard to think about that stuff. Who cares anyways? Just go enjoy your senses. And they're wondering why there's problems. It's because of this. So so then the question is, okay, we're not into cultural relativism, but someone may say, you guys are a bunch of cultural chauvinists, right? So what do we say to those people? Because you're saying, oh, it's not all equal, right? That's what you all are saying, it's not all equal. But how are you not a cultural chauvinist? And how are you any better than that? Maybe easy to understand that explain that logically, how a group may be better than certain groups that are saying, oh, terrorists, right? Because we don't go around saying that. But still, people may say, you guys are a bunch of cultural chauvinists. Oh, your Vedic religion is better, right? So, what would we say to such people? Like, for example, it's brought up, and it's brought up, like Srila Prabhupada brings it up, which it's just something he brings up, and of course I'm trying to be a follower of Srila Prabhupada, despite all my imperfections. But I accept everything Srila Prabhupada says. One thing he brings up, just one moment, Srila Prabhupada, then we could have your... One thing he brings up is he mentions the Bible, and he mentions the Vedas. And he brings up that the Bible is like, what do you call it? A abridged dictionary. And the Vedas are like the, what does he say? Unabridged. All right, there we go. Abridged, unabridged. Pretty simple, right? Abridged, unabridged. There's more in it. Now, of course, you could say from a particular point of view, or from the point of view of there just being more voluminous. That is true for sure. Bible's this big, and the Vedas are, you know, you could fill a few walls, right, with all the commentaries and, right? Yeah. Yeah. Definitely the actual text, right? So, but some people will say, okay, but the Bible is true, and the Vedas are not true. And therefore, they can't even be considered a dictionary at all. It's like they should be burned. They should be thrown away. They have no value. Whereas our Bible does. And if you and the fact is, if you follow those Vedas, you're going to go to hell, right? But Srila Prabhupada, but he says that okay, abridged, unabridged, which can be seen by, which actually, again, for others would just be, okay, you're saying your books are better, right? Your knowledge is better, more complete, and yeah, so we don't agree with that, and so on. So yeah, how are we supposed to get around that? And I think Javita Prabhu has some.
Well, one thing is we should remember Prabhupada's famous phrase, "Palena parichiyate."
Yeah.
The fruit, you know, you can judge the value of something by its fruit, especially a process or a doctrine or a philosophy. So now there are parts of the Vedas that we don't follow, and you know, like the Karma-kanda section, that's not going to get you very far. And Krishna talks about that in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, if you worship indirectly, you work to demigods, you go to heaven, but then you come back to earth, and what's the use? So we're talking about the essential books of knowledge, like that Prabhupada translated, Gita and Bhagavatam and like that. The process of pure devotional service, especially in this age, is taught by Lord Chaitanya. So then see the result. You have the you know, these other religions, we're not going to name them, but are people becoming happy and peaceful? Are they becoming detached from the material? Do they actually feel that they're becoming making progress toward understanding God and understanding themselves and all this? And you find that there's a lot of dissatisfaction, even if people become very strict. And you find that the leadership, oftentimes, unfortunately, you know, their large percentage are corrupt. And that's why I mentioned yesterday that belief in God is going down. Certainly attendance in religious institutes is going down in the West.
Definitely.
Because of the internet. Because people can understand, they get news and things. So that's one way of seeing, you know, very important way.
Yeah.
Result. What's the result of that?
Yeah, what's the result? Yeah, that's good. Yeah, people think, like you said, religion's going down, or the belief in God, which 81% in America believe in God, apparently. We have to look at the Europe percentage, but like Devamrita Swami, he was saying one time that he was giving a talk, I don't know if it was here, anyways, I was hearing it, and he was saying that, yeah, when you go to Europe, you go to New Zealand, Australia, places like that, people think, oh, that America, that backwards country, you know, still believing in God, and, you know, of course there are some believers over there too, but a lot less than America. Mars was. Yeah. So, but yeah, the result, we have to see the result. Are we as a person getting closer to God? That's the aim. I mean, Srila Prabhupada, when he would meet with these different persons in different religions, he would encourage them. Of course, if they wanted to join, he would welcome them. But he would, but if they weren't going to join, he would encourage them to. You should practice your religion very strictly, and specifically, he would always mention this: give up your meat eating, and chant the names of God, whatever the name is. Yeah.
Because I thought there's some exchanges where he probably would meet with some priest or meet with some representative, and they would ask him, "These are our men. These are our people." They weren't interested in coming to church, but now they're bright-faced and so forth. They themselves could see the difference. Mad after God. Bhagavad would say, now they're mad after God, mad after Krishna. Where before they, who cares? It's just cultural show. I read the wrong definition for chauvinism. It says biased devotion to something. Intense biased devotion to something.
Yeah, intense devotion to something, biased devotion. Does anybody have any other? Yeah, Pawan?
Thank you, Prabhu. So we see that there is something called like belief. People believe in something.
Yeah.
So
what? But what do you say? What belief?
People believe in some religion across like everywhere. But when it comes to practicing those ideals or any, it's very, you can say very less. It's not even 1% people who practice religion than believing, because it's like a fashion. Even in India, like it's like hyper-religious people who just use as a satisfying personal desires and choices or interests, right?
Yeah.
So if we negate that, do you think that, like, because Prabhupada used to say that every religion is talking about God, so there is something about God, but people are misguided most of the time. They just are not ready to listen.
Yeah.
To their own religion.
Yeah. Yeah, about this. Yeah, there's people, they believe, right, in God, but how many are actively trying to serve God or glorify God or do something for the mission of God? Because it's not that, I'm a human being. Like every single human being has a mission. It may be in the mode of ignorance, in the mode of passion, the mode of goodness, but they have a mission. Like the mission of the person in the mode of ignorance is, right? Whatever, different. Mode of ignorance, mode of passion, mode of goodness. So Krishna, or God, also has a mission. Not only humans have a mission, right? Krishna also has a mission. So the followers should know what is the mission and try to help, not just believe, right? I believe, right? But that's not good enough. Just like we were discussing yesterday, our Govardhan Prabhu, he was saying how he was out on book distribution, and then he asked people, "Hey, what gets you up in the morning?" And then somebody said, "Well, what gets me up in the morning is what is it? The desire to help people, right? I want to help people, right?" And then Govardhan Prabhu said, "So, what are you doing to help people?" And then the person was kind of like quiet, didn't know what to say. And then you continue with the discussion. Hopefully they got a book. They got a book? Okay, good. They got a book. So, Palina Parichayate, they got a book. The fruit of his preaching. But it's a good point. What are they doing to help? So it's like a person may have the desire to help people, and a lot of people do. A lot of good people. I have a desire to help people, right? But then what are they actually doing? Is it getting past the stage of dreaming, right? So with non-devotees, and it could be with devotees alike, right? The desire to help has to go past the stage of dreaming. You can't just, I had a nice nap today, and I distributed like 100 books in my nap, Or I had a nice dream last night, I was preaching all over, but then In the daydream, no, none of that, right? So it has to go past this stage of dreaming, where that means that to make plans, right, but also to execute them in terms of helping people, right? That has to be done. Like there was an exercise, a mental exercise that one devotee said happened at his workplace. So the exercise went, okay, take a piece of paper, draw a line down it, right? Write all the important things that all the what do you call priorities in your life? Okay, health, family, religion, right, etc. Right? And then on the other side, write how much time you spend a week in these things, a month. How much time do you actually spend doing them? And people are like, oh well, it's a big priority, but I'm not spending much time. So it's a dreaming type of thing. People are thinking, oh, this is a priority, but they're not actually doing anything about it. So one thing is for the desire to help to go past the dreaming stage, very important. But another important thing is to know how to help people. So I'm helping people, right? I'm contributing $10,000 for the distribution of 1 million turkeys down here in San Diego, and I'm going there and I'm serving out every Thanksgiving, right? I'm really helping people. It's misplaced. So one, we have to know how to, and two, it has to go past the stage of dreaming. So yeah, it's important for religion, people of religion also to keep that in mind. Not just keep it in mind, but to... Okay, Tyler.
Thank you for a wonderful class. You asked a lot of really good rhetorical questions and then paused, and we really were thinking about answers to that. And I'm trying to reconcile something I think I've struggled with that you've touched on. It's this idea of when we're meeting people that are very devout in another spiritual practice, a lot of times they don't have Krishna consciousness really understood to a point of reference for them. So I feel like I'm describing to them something new. Yeah. And my natural instinct is to try to convince them of the supremacy of Krishna consciousness over their religion. Original language spoken directly by God. Your religion descends from our religion.
It depends if somebody's open for that.
And they aren't. I'm always failing when I do it completely. So what I'm wondering is it better to relate the aspects of Krishna consciousness that kind of dovetail into theirs and then kind of like nudge it? Because my instinct to just be like, hey,
Try to encourage them. If they're not open to, most people, it's like some people are just sold out to their particular way of life and religion, and we just have to accept that. It's kind of like a devotee who's really sold out to Prabhupada and ISKCON and everything, and then somebody comes to them and they start trying to preach to them, hey, join our church. Come by on Sunday. We really want to see you at our church, at our Mormon church nearby. Please come by. And then the devotee's thinking, oh yeah, sure, but they're not going to go there and, become like that, So similarly, sometimes us, preaching to, priest or something. Yeah, come by and be a devotee, and it may not happen. So we have to encourage them to follow their own religion. And it may happen, like you have Jivananda Prabhu in Tucson. He's now initiated a Catholic priest, and I forgot a few others. He's working on a rabbi right now. So it's
That's
true,
helpful.
actually.
My instinct was always to be like, well, look, we're studying to get our PhD, and you're like in your second level of college, or like, oh, you're in 8th grade with your religious practice,
Yeah, we have to be careful,
Right.
But I would say the difference between, the cultural chauvinism that I was describing of this person earlier. Oh yeah, terrorists, right? The difference between, because someone would say, oh, you guys are cultural chauvinists as well. Well, there may be some idea. We may be stamped as that, labeled as that. Oh, you think your religion's better, you think your culture's better. But we don't hate, other religions, for example. Okay, Vineet.
Prabhuji, I was just reading the summary. Yeah, question, Maharaj. So I was just
we'll
reading.
do the last one here.
this I was reading the summary to this chapter that you were reading with us, and here they're talking about Varnashram Dharma, right?
Yeah.
And one sentence caught my eye. It's like, this tract of land that is called Bharatvarsha, that's India, has the Vedic principle of Varnashram Dharma.
Yeah.
And obviously we see the benefits of that. We see how, even preaching-wise, there is so many things happening, especially in the villages.
Yeah.
But when you come to the West, or just talk about, Gen Zs today, right?
Yeah.
They all live on the internet.
Yeah.
And they have, they have a different idea of what culture is, and it's like a super mesh of different qualities from different places.
Yeah.
So my question was, how valid is this understanding of Varnashram Dharma, especially as a devotee, and maybe as a devotee in an Indian body, for us?
That's a big question, but we'll just briefly. There's many books you could read about it. Like, for example, Bhakti Raghava Swami has a number of books. Also, Shivaram Swami has written one book. It's called Vaishnava, or Varnashram. Yeah. So that's volume 1. He's probably going to strive for some more, right? So you could read such books to try to understand. We could also read Srila Prabhupada's statements on Varnashram and try to understand and hear lectures and so on. But it is something Srila Prabhupada was concerned about and what he wanted to establish, because it's a very Daivi Varnashram, right, Krishna in the center. It's a very scientific way for everyone to operate happily in this world with Krishna in the center. Yeah. So it is important, and Srila Prabhupada did stress it. And I mean, he said that, right? I think he said 50% of his work wasn't done, Varnashram. Yeah. So it was on Prabhupada's mind, especially those last days. So, yeah, ISKCON's challenge is to establish that throughout the world, and what exactly that means and how it's going to happen, we could discuss. Not now. Sorry. Okay. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.